Style, aesthetic. This is something that I really have fun looking at, but that I really don't have myself. Definitely not style. Today I thought we would chat a little bit about finding your witchy aesthetic or finding your spiritual aesthetic. I want to tie this into, again, my thoughts, theories, ideas on the altar, the home altar, and creating a spiritual space. Welcome everyone, welcome back. Merry meet, I'm Witch Hazel, and on this channel I like to discuss combining the mundane and the spiritual, balancing out the practical side of witchcraft and the spiritual side, which is often a little bit more difficult to pin down. And also bridging the gap between the witches and the spiritualists, because I've always had this idea that there is a gap there, and there shouldn't be, because we are essentially doing the same thing. So all of that is what we're talking about in this channel. Specifically today, we're going to talk about aesthetics and finding your spiritual style. What does this mean? This can be very straightforward, meaning how do you like to practice your spirituality? If you are a witch, you probably set up altars, you work with a lot of nature elements like incense, oils, herbs, candles aren't nature elements, but beeswax is, and you can make candles out of that. So the witchy side would be, witchcraft is very hands-on, it's very tangible, it's textural, I would say. If you lean more toward the spiritualist side, then you work with energy as energy, rather than in its tangible forms, right? So you work more with maybe energetic healing, meditation, Reiki, but there are many, many options. Sound energy as well, that's a fun one. That's a good one to add in. While that is all well and good, and it is very important to find your mystical style in that sense, I'm going to also talk about this in a different sense, which relates it back to the idea of the altar. I remember when I first started out in witchcraft, and I think to some extent today it's the same things are popular. You know, witchcraft at the time had a bad rap for being what teenage goths did, right? Dress in black, wear the black lipstick, and all things must be gargoyles and daggers. That does not really resonate with me. I don't like black as a color. I don't like dark. I don't like gothic. I don't like gothic literature. I don't like the style at all. I think for some people it can be misleading when we have a certain idea of what a spiritual path looks like. And we can say the same on the other side. You know, if you think just spiritualist, you might think light, bright, airy, boho chic, you know, dressing up in mala beads and monk robes and the whole bit. And again, for people who do not enjoy that aesthetic, it can be off-putting. What we need to find in both cases, the altar or the general aesthetic, is what works for us. What works, and by us I mean each person individually. And this is where we can get picky on what we work with. If we're thinking of the altar, I know many witches who love candle magic. My sister always enjoyed candle magic. I think it's okay. I don't mind it, but I was never a huge fan of candle magic. I probably would delve a little bit more into the herbs. I like working with herbs, creating things with them. From that perspective, if we look at two people who are essentially studying the same spiritual path, but they have different preferences. One will do a lot of work with candles, the other will do a lot of work with herbs. Is one any better than the other? Are both of them leaving out something essential? No, because remember that the essential part is you. It's the person who is the divine conduit. we transfer energy from divine through us into creation. We create the world around us. In finding our spiritual aesthetic, it's not so much about doing things right or wrong, it's about doing things in a comfortable way, because if we are comfortable, we'll not have energetic blocks. If we are not comfortable using a certain tool or practicing a certain way, then we're going to resist that. So if I do not enjoy meditation, but I tell myself I have to sit and meditate, I'm going to be resistant to it, and that's going to cause a block. Energy's going to go nowhere, nothing's going to happen. If I enjoy working with herbs, but I'm told, well, you have to do a candle spell for this whatever insert issue here. Well, if I'm not a candle person, then I may do the spell, but I'm not interested in it. I'm not invested in it. And therefore, again, that energy is blocked. It's not going to get where it needs to go. The importance of aesthetics is to create an environment where we can be our most creative, where we can be our most manifesting, I guess. And that is why I believe this whole idea, we can combine the ideas of aesthetic as a style and aesthetic as a altar, as a practice, because essentially they're the same thing. If I surround myself with the aesthetic that I prefer, meaning the colors I prefer, the materials I prefer, the natural elements I prefer, if I surround myself with that, in the same way that if I put all of my favorite things onto my altar, it's going to be a reminder to me of all the things that I enjoy. And if I enjoy them, that means they will help me direct energy well. Direct energy without blocks and with optimum ability or power. The other nice thing when thinking about aesthetics is, so far I've mentioned altar, I've mentioned your home, things around you. Let's not forget the aesthetics of fashion. Again, I said back in the day, witchcraft was a thing for teenage goths, right? So you would dress in a certain way. The thing that is useful in this kind of stereotype is the idea that what we wear projects who we are and what we want. This is very true. We all have our own style. Even if we wear the exact same thing every single day, it's because that is what is effective for us. If wearing the exact same thing every day prevents me from being blocked, facilitates my ability to create the things I want to create, then that is a good spiritual aesthetic. So while we're on this theme of energetic blocks and how style can play a part in releasing those blocks, let's talk a little bit more about energetic connections themselves. Because all of this is for naught if we don't actually have a functioning energetic connection to the divine. When I mention that you are the divine tool, the meaning behind that is that universal energy surrounds us, it moves through us, it is present in everything, but we as human beings have a very unique ability, as far as we know. Animals more than likely have it as well. All living things have this ability to channel energy. And if we are not aware of our connection with that energy, then we can't channel anything. We can't direct that energy into something worthwhile, into something useful. So how do we do that? Creating aesthetics is wonderful. It helps with flow. It helps with feeling at ease. But again, all of this sense of ease is not going to do us any good if we are not aware of our divine connection. How do we become aware of it? You need to work with intuition. Intuition is that little voice in your head. It's that feeling inside of you of what is right, what is wrong, and what is known. This is the big difference between intuition and instinct. Instinct is purely survival. Intuition is a sense of deep knowing that we don't know where it came from. We know in many cases, I never learned this concept, I never learned this thing, and yet I know this is true. Why? Because that information is coming from divine. And when we can connect to that, when we can trust that little inner voice, it becomes stronger, and therefore that connection with divine becomes stronger. And before long, we get to communicate with divine. Divine says, hey, go ahead and do this if you want to reach your goals. And we say, hey, divine, I want to reach this goal. And you're working now in tandem with divine energy. This is where the true ability comes in of any witch, of any spiritualist, of anyone who is able to create wonderful things, of anyone who is able to create really big change in life. So if by chance you feel as though your intuitive connection, your divine connection is not strong enough, or maybe you worry you don't have it at all, you do, it just needs to be trained a bit. Then never fear, I have a freebie linked in the description for you. It is a 4-step guide to enhancing your intuitive power. And it is meant to help you build up that power within the next 30 days or so, to help you to see that you do have intuitive and divine power, that you are connected to divine, and that you can make great things happen in your life. Take a look at that. It's in the description. And I think that is those are the main thoughts that I wanted to bring in today. And remember, there are a couple of housekeeping items I want to make sure to talk about. First, I'm trying to do more blog posts again, and these posts will get into more specific detail on these themes that I talk about. And very often they will bring in more of the traditional aspect of these themes rather than my kind of wonky take on everything. If you're interested in that, anything related to this theme then will be linked in the description. So thank you again for joining me today on this little side chat about aesthetics and finding your spiritual style. And until the next time, everyone, blessed be.